Welcome back to Beagle Eye Visions Internet. We're back on track with this episode. We're on episode number 27. This one is called Understanding the Higher Imagination. It's going to be a good one. It's running about a little over 47 minutes. I hope you stick around, stay till the end, because these guys are legends. All right, let's go.
And that's one of the things about religion that we have to remember when we're talking about that makes it such a hot topic issue is because we're talking about law. Who gets to be God? Who gets to be God's deputies? Who is the Most High? Who is the divine authority? It's all about the claim to the Most High. The only way that somebody can be higher than us is if we give away our power. Because there's nobody, we're all equal. But we're not equal in our knowledge, so ultimately I think it does have to be a hierarchy, but it has to be a cooperative hierarchy like a bee colony. It's about what our value system is, what we care about.
Hello, Hive Mind. Today is November 5th, 2020. I am your host, Nate Cap. Welcome to the 27th CubbyWhole Repository Podcast, where important topics are unveiled, discussed, and tested. Our website is CubbyWhole.com. That's CubbyWhole.com. And as of now, a new show is released every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and every Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific Time. On the last show, I got into and covered the higher imagination, which is the uppercase imagination, dealing with abstract thinking and higher knowledge of self as a solid and important foundation for the expansion of the imagination. Because it's about expanding consciousness. It's about expanding consciousness in order to be able to explore and understand the self in ways that go beyond the limitations of knowledge. But what's important here is the higher knowledge is what's required to be able to springboard further and connect the dots that can't be connected without it, without the knowledge. Also, I covered the pineal gland, which is the pine cone-shaped tissue between the two hemispheres of the brain in conjunction with the imagination as the eye that processes and joins knowledge, creativity, and experience to generate vision that has the potential to decode the mysteries of the universe. Also, on the last show, I covered how you can view the slides for these shows by going to CubbyWhole.com and clicking on the podcast button and then going to the number of the show you're listening to, and you'll see slides under the description. Now, many of the shows are still without slides because the idea was just introduced into the website, but be on the lookout in the future shows for the updated slides. On this show, if you go to podcast number 27, I've laid out slides for this show, which I'll be pointing out and covering as I go. And this is a new thing we're trying out, so there's gonna probably be a few issues. So just make sure your browser is updated, and if you're on your phone, just turn it horizontal to see the images better while you listen, because it might be an issue vertically. And I'm still fixing the bugs on my end, so it may take a while before it works near perfect. Okay, so today I'm going to go further into the higher imagination, or uppercase imagination, and I'm going to switch it up a bit just to help us understand how our past can help us understand the now as well as the future. And this is where higher imagination is needed most. This is what really has to be understood to really grasp the whole idea of CubbyWhole itself. We have to really think symbolically to go back in history to see the answers that have been coded and preserved for progeny and posterity. So, if you're at the slides, look at the one that says decoding with higher imagination. There's a reason why our ancient ancestors recorded the day sky and the night sky and then created archetypes like the gods Horus and Set to help humanity understand light and dark and to help us understand how to survive through understanding cycles. Understanding the zodiac in correspondence with our consciousness is key to re-illuminating the imagination because it is all about seeing the parallels of light rising and falling. And what I'm talking about is the path of the sun. And, there being a rhythm to the way we come up in consciousness to higher degrees to be able to see and understand the sacred symbolic language of our ancestors. This is how they, our ancestors, communicate with us from the ancient past. Something only higher imagination can achieve. Something I believe most humans have the ability to also tap into, especially about things that truly matter for the evolution of the human species. This is all about, aligning with natural law and doing the shadow work, working towards freedom and lessening the suffering in our world. Okay, so on the slide that says re-illumination of the imagination, this is the name of my presentation I'm giving for the Seed for Growth Conference coming up next May. And it's all about going through the dark to understand the other side, to understand the light. Because we can't understand the one without the two. It's like the yin-yang symbol. You can't understand the whole symbol, which is the one, without understanding the light and the dark, or negative and positive, which are the two. Re-illumination is all about the hard, arduous task of, going through the dark. So going inward and finding your true care. That's what re-illumination is all about in a nutshell. It's about relighting that fire or rekindling that fire in the middle, or, in other words, relighting the pyramid within, the pyramid within. And fire is associated with the heart, and the heart is in the middle. Plus the Anahata heart chakra is in the middle. So it's all about reigniting the middle where we find balance and equilibrium. Plus we need fire to see in the dark. So on the next slide, this is a quote by the great author Manly Palmer Hall, who said, "Every soul is engaged in a great work, the labor of personal liberation from the state of ignorance. The world is a great prison. Its bars are the unknown, and each is a prisoner until, at last, he earns the right to tear these bars from their moldering sockets and pass, illuminated and inspired into the darkness, which becomes lighted by that presence." And I would say this all has to do with understanding the word understanding, because in order to understand the light or information, one must go in the underworld or heart of darkness to see the foundation of which one stands under, to see the foundation that holds the light up. In order to understand a thing, you must see its connection with some bigger subject or bigger whole, and the possible consequences of this connection. Understanding is always the understanding of a smaller picture in relation to a bigger picture, or a smaller problem in relation to a bigger problem. So on the next slide, understanding means the knowing of a part of something while realizing and comprehending its relation to the whole. People learn to understand things by measuring everything in relation to the very thing they are wanting to know. To understand basically means to agree upon. People who truly understand each other are those who are principled and equal in their knowledge. And only then is mutual understanding really possible. And many people believe that understanding can be different, that they have the right to understand the same thing but differently. And that's not how it works. There can only be one understanding. The rest is either, incomplete understanding or unprocessed knowledge. It's easy to say, I understand, but can it be demonstrated as so? That's the honest question we should always be asking ourselves. That's where and how we grow further into human adults. Imagination is required to make the connection with knowledge in order to come to a clear understanding, because it's about seeing the whole picture with the imagination as, dots that connect to the dots of what we know, which then creates the realization, which is the understanding. You can understand other people only as much as you understand yourself, and only on the level of your own being. And you can notice when someone doesn't understand you, especially in a debate or conversation. You can see when someone doesn't understand or doesn't even try to understand, when they listen to respond rather than to understand. This is the type of thinking that shows less of wisdom and more of just, wanting to hear themselves talk or hear how smart they sound. So understanding the importance of understanding is really important. And it's what helps us understand imagination better. Now, what happens when ego gets in the way? The mind lives in survival mode, which others can easily manipulate and hack the imagination. And controllers of this world will hack our imagination and are hacking our imagination constantly, especially because, we're not using it. Most of us are not using it. And I'm talking about higher and lowercase imagination, especially uppercase imagination. And the other two ways are emotion and belief. Emotion being straight from the limbic part of the brain, the reactive part of the brain, the reactive part of us that doesn't look at things rationally. So reacting rather than envisioning or being rational. And then there's belief, what destroys or stagnates our vision to see further. And that belief may be based in someone else using your imagination. It's about overcoming the authority that's been indoctrinated into us since birth. The ego will say no one is controlling your mind, but the truth is there for you once the ego is observed and then put aside. You got to learn to live above the ego. In order to have a clear mind and your own imagination, you must have more of your own mind and less of others' ideas, and less of others' useless ideas, because it is all the entertainment and all the news that is clouding our mind from using our higher imagination. Living another man's fantasy is what we're doing, and it's mostly a fantasy based in fear and ego. We are the collective conductors who carry this fantasy out, who manifest this fantasy. Individually, we are manifesting fantasies of control unconsciously. And on to the next slide. All a sorcerer has to do in order to gain control over our imagination is give us their mindset. Okay, this is all about you and me or anyone else. If we're not using our higher imagination, they definitely will. A really great depiction of this is in the video called The Jones Plantation by Larkin Rose. You can find it on YouTube, and it's really excellent. I highly recommend listening to that audio. It's only about, 12 or so minutes long. It's a fantastic audio illustration of fear-based mind control and slavery. So definitely check that out. It's important to understand how domination works with the power of imagination. For instance, as a human who, finds pleasure and benefits and or companionship with an animal, they recognize a superior way above that animal, like a dog, like a dolphin or a horse or any animal they can train and get that animal to do as they say on command. And I assure you that feeling of power over an animal's mind can create the, curiosity, and it does, to want to dominate other humans as well, the animal part of humans especially. And of course, that is happening majorly. And the reason it's happening is because of a knowledge differential. And more importantly, it's a differential of the understanding of that knowledge. So in order for a human to control another human, there has to be a very high degree and understanding of human psychology and obedience, of course. So what is the solution or solutions to this? Well, one thing is to raise ourselves to do hard, thorough research on as many aspects of psychology as possible. Reading the playbooks, of these type of people who put their indoctrination information right out there in the open. They put it right out in the open. And there are people who have been part of these circles of dominators who have come down and, tried to help give us the warning signs and, show us the playbooks as well. So, and this could even be happening consciously or unconsciously in your own circles of friends and family. People who live in ego are manipulators and controllers of others. Our education of occult knowledge, higher knowledge, is what helps us defend ourselves physically and especially spiritually. But when it comes to sorcerers, aka dark occultists, we have to understand it's a conscious, subversive manipulation and public purveyance of words, images, numbers, colors, vibrations, rhythms, and symbols, which are then directed by the ubiquitous media oracles toward the limbic system of the, human brain, the sacred feminine area of the brain. Sacred feminine because it's submissive. Okay, so the next two topics I'm going to cover can help shield us from much of this type of manipulation, as well as strengthen our higher imagination. And these two topics are the ways in which we intelligently see further into and decode things. Green language and pattern recognition are two really important pieces of knowledge that generate our higher imagination when dealing with knowledge of self and trying to understand the manipulation of our psychology. When it comes to green language, many people, won't understand its true purpose or that it even has any significance at all. Especially if one doesn't have an understanding of moral law or is, just stuck in the 5 cents illusion.
Show your face.
Green language is abstract, and it takes practice to see its true magic. If someone is coming from a purely left brain viewpoint, then this will be a little harder to understand or grasp.
When you turn up,
And
you're
I'll
dead.
do my best to explain this as thorough as possible. And I only ask that you listen all the way through with a healthy, skepticism at least. And if you're coming from a purely right-brained viewpoint, I warn to,
Coward, hide.
not get too carried away with words and make it all about, every word is revealing something, because that's definitely not beneficial, And yes, green language is likened to wordplay and puns, but it's much more important because it's revealing helpful hints that solidify what already is. And it's the hidden language that matters. This is 100% part of understanding the higher uppercase imagination. On to the next slide of green language. Green language is the language of openness to be able to entertain phonetic meanings of words or ideas, ranging from, making sense right away to seeming overboard or too abstract with respect to knowledge of those words or ideas that may carry a hidden code or reveal a deeper meaning. It's about observing a word and the behavior associated with the word to help come to an understanding with a deeper connection. So that being said, it's okay to entertain words or ideas that might actually have no deeper meaning, because that's part of, being science-minded. It's about testing the unknown, and you may or may not get anything out of those tests. You may just start reaching for something in hopes that you find what you're looking for. And, that's okay as long as you don't go spouting off that it's the truth or has any validity. Many people, especially those who are left-brained, tend to have many issues with wordplay as a means of searching for truth. And that's very understandable considering all the disinformation out there where people, force things to mean something that actually don't. And I see that all the time. And, I see right through it, but I'm also an adult, and I know enough to know that, these people are just entertaining things because either they're new at it or maybe they got stuck and they're, sensationalizing it, which is, not a good idea, especially if you're trying to grow. Green language is a tough abstract language, aka vision, to understand, let alone risk becoming a thinker in that way because of the ridicule that usually comes with it. As someone who practices green language regularly, I have found that it evolves consciousness in a way that connects ideas and understanding a lot faster and clearer. And it doesn't mean that truth just automatically comes to you. But what it does mean is once the self has allowed openness to deeper meanings to the words and ideas, then it becomes easier to receive
Technician, how would you describe the testing sample provided?
Cold and refreshing. Do you know how long it's been since I had cold beer?
Very good. I appear to be operating at an optimal level. Shall we commence delivery to the Hotel Rexford?
What are you?
I am a modified Robco Protectron designated Drinkin Buddy. My internal microbrewers allows for the internal brewing, bottling, and dispensing of beer at an accelerated rate. I am also programmed to tell a wide variety of jokes for the customer's amusement. Shall we commence delivery to the Hotel Rexford?
Can you brew any other types of beer?
If provided with a hollow tape containing the recipe, I should be capable of brewing any alcoholic beverage. Shall we commence delivery to the Hotel Rexford?
Yeah, sure.
Beginning transit operations to Hotel Rexford.
answers that are harder to come by, that most feel can only be, from scientists, books, or, some sort of authority. To know and practice the vision of green language is all about becoming the true authority of self. And on to the next slide. Green language is a higher order type of thinking because it helps find truth in a way that expedites the process of unraveling the mysteries of man. Green language has many different names, and one of those is the language of the birds, which many people, I'm sure, are familiar with. Language of the birds means that only those who have labored to reach the frequency high enough can communicate higher knowledge through utilizing higher imagination. It's about bird head. It's about the archetypal flight of higher consciousness of language that can be communicated to other people who have elevated or initiated into bird head or bird heights of consciousness. This is part of understanding totemism. Green language is one of man's oldest spiritual technologies and part of understanding the alchemical wedding. It's also referred to as phonetic law or spoken Kabbalah, celestial language, mystical, magical, divine language, the art of light. And I like what Brandon calls it, which is the emerald language. And I also call it the calibration language because it's all about adjusting the self to balance, to a finer point. This green language is a balanced frequency that allows one to see and hear phonetically, acronymically, anagrammatically, etymologically, and morally. Green, because green is the middle frequency of the visible spectrum of color, which is all about understanding electromagnetism and the wavelengths of visible light. Green is also the healthiest foods to eat. And green is the color of a healthy, visible nature. And it's the middle Anahata heart chakra in the Vedic chakra system. So since we're on the topics of green language and the imagination, I'll go ahead and break down imagination, which can be broke down in a few different ways that I know. So when looking at the word imagination, you can say imagine at I on. So phonetically, the I is the E-Y-E, and when I'm talking about the I, I'm talking about the I next to O-N at the end of the word. And the I, the E-Y-E, this represents the I, or the third eye. And this is about understanding how letters are words as well, So it means to imagine with the I on. So you can also say I, E-Y-E, magi, so that's M-A-G-I, meaning wisdom. And then the letter N, which you can add I to that, and makes it N, at I on. So I, magi, at I on. So this is saying the third eye of wisdom inward with the I being on. And of course, that's more of an advanced breakdown, definitely more abstract way of looking at it. Now, I want you to ask yourself, does any of that make sense? If so, you're making the connection of what the word's definition means in correspondence to what the word is saying phonetically and, broken down. And then, of course, this means you're seeing in green, the green frequency, the middle frequency. And this means you're seeing it correctly. This is what helps reveal so much more to us, because it's not just there on purpose by those who have, encoded our language, but also it's how the universe communicates in a way to help us see further because of the, very reason we are using our higher imagination with the knowledge we know, because we're trying to know and understand. And that's really important to understand. This is all about, like I said, this is all about, taking back the authority of self. And I'll do 5 more words in green language, and then I'm going to move on to pattern recognition. Plus, I know Brandon wants to do whole shows breaking down words in green language, and I know he's got a lot more to add to the meaning and understanding of this language. So definitely watch out for that. Okay, so these 5 words I'm going to break down are television, illusion, spiritual, information, and realize. So I'm sure if you're new to this, you're trying to figure out what these words are saying, and maybe, you figured it out already. Some of these words are easy. Well, the first one I'm going to break down is television. And television is pretty simple. It means tell a vision, or tell lie vision. A lie. Tell a lie vision. All right, and then on to the next one, we have illusion. And illusion might be a little more advanced, and it's all about the ill, so I-L-L, and then us, and then E-Y-E-I-O-N, on. Or ill on our eye, because that's what an illusion does. So illusion means ill on our eye, because us is our eye and then on, and then ill. So ill on our eye. And then spiritual is spire ritual. That's actually broke down into two compounds, spire ritual. And the spire is the spiral like a vortex, and then the ritual is the rite, the R-I-T-E, rite. Or it's the practice or observance of that ritual. In the spiral ritual, we will definitely be getting deep into the meaning of that as we go further into these shows. Then we have information, which this is pretty easy too. It's inform at eye on. So to inform the eye on. And the last word I'm sure everybody sees all the time, and I really like this word because it's really easy to understand, is realize. So realize takes the realization of real eyes to see real lies. And just to help us understand mind control better when it comes to this hidden language, green language, just watch the news. Now think about that word, news. Green language also works through acronyms, and news is all about taking our minds all over the place. So think about north, east, west, and south, and you get the news. This is like spinning our compass out of control constantly, never knowing what direction to look at. Okay, so before I go further, what does the archetypal witch do? She casts spells, right? And what does the media news do? It provides a broadcast. And it's a broadcast channeling spell magic to the uninitiated eyes that watch that channel or those channels. We have to spell out what they say so that way we have a better idea of what's really being said. Because what they say goes directly into the subconscious mind. And if we're not aware of their methods, then we might be under a spell. Really, really important to understand. On to the next topic. I like to say imagination is the overarching part to these topics I'm covering. But imagination, green language, and pattern recognition all work in conjunction with each other. They are all equally important to understand, especially when we're trying to expand consciousness. When it comes to understanding green language, pattern recognition is part of understanding the process of language acquisition, which is about gaining the ability to understand how certain words and letters can speak beyond what is taught, because it goes beyond the appeal to authority. And also, pattern recognition is a right-brained function, and so is pattern memory. For the most part, pattern recognition refers to a process of the input of stimulating pattern information and then matching it with the information from long-term memory, which then causes the recognizing of the category which the stimulation belongs to. Therefore, pattern recognition depends on people's knowledge and experience, you know, and without involving an individual's knowledge and experience, people cannot understand the meanings of the stimulating information of patterns that are received, which is then not possible to recognize patterns consciously. Pattern recognition is the ability of picking up on certain cues, structures, shapes,
Look, I don't like to brag,
symbols,
but I'm a lover and
words,
a fighter.
colors,
Know what I'm
sizes, textures, sounds, rhythms, and any parallels that signify something significant, and how things work and operate
Keep your
in
irons
correlation
strapped on.
to our knowledge and experiences. And pattern recognition is all about becoming more aware of your surroundings, and is something you can constantly continue to improve on, especially if you're, wanting to really understand the world we live in. It's a crucial part of the awakening process. There are 6 main theories of pattern recognition that I find really interesting, and I'd like to share those with you. And the first is the template matching, which assumes that everything we see, we understand only through past exposure, which then informs our future perception of the external world.
I found a robot that was
And the
supposed to
second
be delivered to
is
someone here.
Prototype
who it might be?
matching,
A robot?
which is the
Sounds like
idea
work.
that if, you never saw a chair, you'd still be able to recognize what a chair is because it has 4 legs and a seat. That's
Hey, I
prototype
found
matching.
a robot called the Drinkin Buddy that was supposed to be delivered
And the
here.
third is
I've been looking for it
feature
for a while.
analysis,
Didn't realize it was a robot.
which is how
Let me
our
take it
brains
off.
detect complex
Okay.
relationships between
B.
features and characteristics of the environment it operates in. And then the fourth
way.
theory is
Doesn't
recognition by
Well,
components
Let me know if you change
theory.
your mind.
And this theory states that humans recognize objects by breaking them down into their 3-dimensional geometric shapes. The fifth theory is the bottom-up and top-down processing theory, which top-down is about how we construct our perception of reality, in which these perceptions are hypotheses or propositions based on past experiences and stored information.
buddy.
And then bottom up is the theory that there is enough information in the environment to make sense of the world in a direct way without any hypothesis testing. And then the last theory is the sixth theory, which is Fourier analysis, which is the mathematical study of the way general
buddy.
functions may be represented or approximated by sums of simpler trigonometric functions. Now, I'm not going to go in depth on these theories, but it's worth noting them to have a better understanding of how pattern recognition functions. But the one I'd like to emphasize is the recognition by components theory,
How's it going?
which is
You looking for scrap?
a
Ooh,
a
did you change your mind
bottom-up
about
process
Drinkin Buddy?
proposed by Irving Biederman in 1987 to explain object recognition.
Yeah, if you're willing to tell.
According to the RBC, the object recognition theory, we are able to recognize objects by separating them into geons. And geons are the simple 2D or 3D forms, such as cylinders, bricks, wedges, cones, circles, and rectangles corresponding to the simple parts of an object. The theory proposes that the visual input is matched against structural representations of objects in the brain. That's really interesting.
How's it going?
These structural representations consist of geons and their relations You know, that like an ice cream cone
Hey,
could
buddy.
be broken down into a sphere located above a cone, which is what it sits in. And this is very important to pay close attention to when studying symbolism, especially.
Hey,
What is it?
Pattern recognition is all about inductive and
Hi.
deductive
Need
thinking,
something, lover.
something Brandon explained very well in show number 5, where he teaches problem solving and
we should go our
teachability.
separate ways.
Sure. I'll
So,
head home and wait for
pattern
you.
recognition
Don't stay
and
away too long.
inductive thinking
Or I
is a
might
special
start getting
ability
lonely.
of the human brain to not only find patterns, but figure out in a logical way what those patterns suggest
buddy.
about what will happen
Engaging
next.
complement, subroutine.
And, in a broad sense, pattern recognition and inductive thinking form the basis for all scientific questioning.
Hey, buddy.
Boy, that sure
Recognizing
is
patterns allows us to predict and expect what is coming, whether, physically, mentally, or spiritually.
Ready to head
And
back out?
when it comes to the usage of spiritual pattern
Good.
recognition, I like to refer to this as what I call, and this is on the last slide, the hermetically versatile mind, which is the ability to recognize, envision, manifest, flip, reverse, cycle, mirror, measure, modify, rearrange any shape,
Entertainment.
symbol,
Down the
word,
stairs.
idea, or archetype based on higher knowledge and experience and the utilization of the imagination in order to understand something
Hey, ever been,
with
killing
full
and killing?
clarity.
Some fine-looking weapon.
And I know that might seem like a mouthful, but it's worth recognizing how important it is to understand. Because it's all about finding truth.
Nothing better to cure what ails you.
You know, the hermetically versatile mind is all about finding truth. You know, this is what the phrase "to leave no stone unturned" really is all about. It's all about recognizing the patterns of a problem or mystery and doing what we can to solve it, to figure it out. Okay, guys, this episode is at its end. Hope you've found clarity and value in this show today, and you can find more shows, presentations, and news here at CubbyWhole.com. Also, please make sure to keep your eyes out for the next couple of shows as Brandon goes further into methods of manipulation and mind control. This show and the last show, number 26, were a kind of, breakup to set some needed foundations of what's to come. And this knowledge is to help us, be better prepared with higher visuals to be able to see and understand the rest of the content we share here. And as for now, a new show comes out every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific time and every Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. So stay tuned for more. Thank you, and keep transcending dogma.
All right, another awesome episode. I really love how he breaks down all those words, all that emerald language we learned today. It's good stuff. I highly even recommend coming back to this episode. This is an episode, study those words. Learn that stuff, especially the tell lie vision. I thought that was a good one. All right. Well, thanks again if you made it this far, and don't forget, this is fueled by Dubby. Shout out to Dubby.gg. Clean, sugar-free, no artificial flavor energy drink. It's better than it's way better than Gamer Subs. It's there's no chalkiness, there's no chalky flavor. It's good stuff. Get you some W.GG. Use code BeagleEyeVision for 10% off. All right. Like I said, thanks again if you made it this far. Stay tuned and stay golden.